Hey guys, so you might have noticed that there have been a few rather significant changes recently, some of which I'm not exactly thrilled about, like shutting down my coffee company. So instead of making each one of these its own video, I figured we would just talk candidly and smash everything together here to talk about what happened, what's going on, what I would have done differently in the future. You get the idea. Now, normally with most of the videos on my channel, I really try my best to script it out as perfectly as possible for the viewer and the almighty YouTube algorithm, but that's not going to be this video, and I might go off on a bit of a rant here and there. Now, I will cover a few of my normal investing topics here, like where I'm investing in 2025, what I'm doing with my money, and a few of the concerns that I have. But if you're expecting the usual content, that'll come back in the next video. Just won't be this one. So with that disclaimer out of the way, thank you so much for bearing with me. Also, big thank you to Cook Unity for sponsoring this video. But let's get back to the topic at hand. You probably noticed I've been posting a lot less recently. Like back in the day, or really I guess for the first almost 7 years on YouTube, I posted a video here every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday without missing an upload. On my second channel, I posted every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and on my podcast, I posted every single Sunday, again, without ever missing an upload. I just refused to let myself fall off the horse, lose the momentum, or let the viewer down, because that's what a lot of people came to expect. But I hate to say it, looking back, that resulted in me making a lot of videos just for the sake of making a video. Obviously, that wasn't sustainable. It was very repetitive. I got quickly burnt out of doing that, and now I really just try my best to make videos only when I feel like there's something worth talking about. Sometimes that might be every week, it might be every other week. I really don't keep to a schedule anymore, and surprisingly, it seems like that's working out a lot better. For instance, it's allowed me to break free from the monotonous videos that I've done a lot at my desk and talk about other topics that are a bit outside my comfort zone. Like the Santa Monica video is a great example. That video never would have happened if I was stuck in my office trying to stick to an arbitrary schedule that I put on myself for the sake of not missing an upload. This is very much a passion project because I grew up there, I left in 2020, and I was rather shocked to have seen just how quickly it changed in the last few years. Like, I still have exterior cameras in one of my properties, and I routinely see people camping in the alley, shooting up drugs, going to the bathroom, passing out in the middle of the road. It's been really bad. Well, to my surprise, my video documenting a lot of this got a lot of traction. It led to me interviewing the mayor of Santa Monica in a follow-up video, and he was able to provide a completely different perspective and context that I had no idea about. All in all, I'm really proud of that video. A lot of people seem to resonate with it, and I got thousands of comments of people telling me, "Hey Graham, you should go and check out San Francisco. Come to Austin, check out my area to see how bad it's gone." And yeah, I'm sure those videos would all do well, and it's like an endless list of content, but I just don't feel good about that, so you're probably not going to see a series of like, WTF happened in insert this city here, but you will see me really try to push the limits and discover new concepts that I've just never done before, so you'll have that to look forward to. Anyway, beyond that, in terms of posting less, you might have noticed that I've been scaling back a lot lately throughout pretty much everything. And one that I'm actually pretty sad about is the end of my coffee company, Bankroll Coffee. You know, I thought about making this its own dedicated video, really just break down exactly what happened and my thought process in closing it down. But let's just talk about it openly here, because why not? Now, for those who haven't been following, a few years ago in 2021, I launched a coffee company with a partner, and instantly, like, it was a massive success. I think in our first weekend, we did over $100,000 worth of sales. We sold out of everything, and it was so successful, in fact, that our Shopify temporarily got like flagged because a brand new store got like this huge influx of sales, and I guess that triggers something on their back end that is like, hey, this could be bad. So they had to review it. Everything was totally fine, but like it was an instant hit. I was shocked. Now, even though we didn't have any crazy profit margins or anything, the money that we did make was just reinvested back into the business to buy more inventory. And it was a really strong proof of concept that maybe we were onto something. And the sales were really, really, really good after that. For like the next year and a half, we saw about $30,000 to $40,000 a month in revenue without barely even talking about it. We did very little promotion. Most of it was just organic, which was fantastic. However, everything beyond that point proved to be extremely difficult. Why? Well, coffee and shipping prices increased faster and higher than we ever thought was possible. So we had to raise prices just to avoid us losing money on every order. Now, two, ad rates became very expensive. Like in the past, if you went to bankrollcoffee.com, but you didn't place an order, we could retarget you on Facebook or Instagram to the point where like maybe we spent $1, but we'd make $2 back. That was great. That was a really good investment. So we continued doing that. But when ad rates more than doubled, it was unsustainable. We started losing money on that, so we stopped. All of this stalled growth to the point where we could continue earning enough just to keep it going every single month. We could raise prices again to try to make a little bit of profit, or I could actively promote it in every single one of my videos to try to drive more sales. You know, it's really a tough one because the more I learned about the coffee business, the more I realized just how difficult this would ever be to scale off of my own name. Like, sure, you could have a successful influencer product where you have a thing that your core audience buys and will gladly support. But with something like coffee, it would be impossible to scale to a point where I could step back and not be actively involved when you have extremely thin profit margins and you compete with brands like Peet's, Folgers, and Starbucks that sell millions and millions of bags at very thin profit margins because they have a much bigger brand behind them. Like, take a look at Chamberlain Coffee. Despite her huge following, coffee in stores, and consistent demand, it's losing money. It's actively unprofitable, and she said this herself. They've also invested millions and millions of dollars, which I think is going to be difficult for investors to get a return on capital without Emma just actively promoting it to her own fan base. At which point, it would be better for her to sell it from her own store direct to consumer, cut out all the middlemen. And if investors are looking for a return on capital, I would say merch and clothing would probably yield way higher results. Point being, despite Bankroll Coffee having consistent sales, incredible reviews, and otherwise as being a success from a product standpoint, rising overhead cost just crushed us. And we'd have to keep raising prices and keep pushing more sales just to make it sustainable. And that is why at the end of the day, we decided to shut it down. I guess in hindsight, we probably should have made the decision a lot sooner, but I have no regrets in giving it a shot and trying something new. It's also made me realize just how difficult it could be to create a standalone influencer brand that sells without you actively promoting it. Like Max Tuning's Sour Strips are a perfect example of this. Most people have no idea who he is anytime they go to Target to buy them. And after chatting with Max, you could tell just how much he loves his product and has so much fun running it. But my creativity and passion was really in just creating YouTube videos. It wasn't in building a standalone product. That is why he sold to Hershey's, and I'm here in my guest bedroom, making YouTube videos. Okay, in all seriousness, anytime you want to grow a business or a brand, you just have to be absolutely obsessive over it. And if you don't have that type of laser focus, it'll be impossible to compete against somebody else who does. So I guess my advice for anyone out there is to say no, unless you're going to go in with everything that you have from a place of passion and be 100% committed. Otherwise, it's going to be an uphill battle to stand out from the crowd and do well. Except, of course, when it comes to investing. Look, I know a lot of people watch me because of my market updates, analysis on certain investing strategies, or maybe you just like seeing a picture of a cute ladybug as a thank you for hitting the like button and subscribing if you haven't done that already. But in terms of what I'm personally doing with my own money over the next year, here's the entire outline. Although before we go into that, I'm going to be honest with you. I had a sponsorship that was supposed to go right here. They sent me the talking points, and I didn't like what they suggested I say. So I don't know if they're going to like me talking like this, but too bad. A year ago, this company, Cook Unity, reached out because they wanted to sponsor my channel. Basically, they have these pre-packaged meals that get shipped on a regular basis, and because I've never tried it before, I asked if they could send me a week's worth of meals so I could give it a shot and see what I think, and they said yes. Well, a few days later, it arrived at my door, and honestly, I was blown away at how good it was. No joke, this looked like it was just cooked, it tasted like I was eating food right from a restaurant, and when I broke down the price per meal, it was cheaper than what I was paying at other fast casual restaurants. Ever since then, I have genuinely been a huge fan of their food, I eat it on a regular basis, and they have hundreds of options to pick from, each prepared by award-winning chefs with extremely high-quality ingredients. Everything is delivered fully cooked, all you have to do is heat it up so it's ready in a few minutes, and if you're trying to eat lean like me, they also have a ton of options that are all under 600 calories. I also really appreciate how easy it is to start, stop, or pause service at any time. So if I know I'm going to be out of town, I could go online in a few seconds, tell them I don't want meals delivered, and it's done. Because of this, I am thrilled every single time they come back to sponsor my channel because it's something that's a treat for me to eat. I really enjoy it. And if you want a recommendation, here's what I've enjoyed. You could check out the Chipotle Lime Salmon or Lime Hanger Steak by Chef Ruben Garcia, Comforting Chicken Rogan Josh by Chef Artie Simpath, or Thai Penang Curry with Beef by Chef Stacy Barang. So if you're interested in checking them out, use the link down below in the description or go to cookunity.com/Graham and use the code GRAHAM50 at checkout for 50% off your first order. Without exaggeration, at 50% off, it's an incredible deal. And I even turn these, by the way, into cheap date nights. Like, I'll take the food, make it look really nice on a plate, and it appears as though I've just spent the entire night cooking food, even though I didn't. So again, the link is down below in the description. And now let's get back to the topic at hand, where I'm investing in 2025. First, for the last 5 years or so, I've made it a habit to dollar cost average into the market on a regular basis, no matter what, and I'll continue doing that in 2025, no matter where the market trades. I know there have been so many articles out there talking about how we're in a bubble, or how the S&P is way too concentrated within a few dangerous tech companies. You know what? Both of those could be true. But at the end of the day, no one has any idea what's going to happen. Every analyst prediction out there is simply a shot in the dark. Every time we get really good buying opportunities, the Fed steps in to bail everybody out. And there's nothing that says we can't see a major crash or a huge bull market over the next few years. Anything can happen. This is why I'm not trying to time the market. Any short-term movements in price really make no difference, and I'm just keeping the same pace as usual. The second, because I'm never a fan of being too concentrated within one investment, I'm also buying into an international index fund that covers foreign companies outside of the United States. Now, even though this one has severely underperformed over the last 2 decades or so, I do like having a 20% hedge just in case things do turn around. The third, I've been investing in a Bitcoin ETF ever since it came out about a year ago. It's a small part of my portfolio, but it's to the point where if it goes to zero, it won't be the end of the world, and if it goes up, then maybe it's a better opportunity than holding on to cash or money market funds. Fourth, speaking of cash and money market funds, this still makes a decent part of my portfolio, and that also means that I've lost out on earning 24% this year on money that was uninvested, not in the stock market. Now, obviously, hindsight is 2020, and this is always meant to be a cushion to fall back on just in case it was needed. So the goal isn't just to optimize every single penny and maximize its return on everything. But you know what? It does sting to look back and be like, I could have invested all of it and made an extra 25%. So be it. It is what it is. Anyway, when it comes to this part of my portfolio, it's all pretty passive. It's all, for the most part, automatic, and it doesn't require a lot of work, except when it comes to real estate. And this is something I have never talked about before publicly, but I think this is going to be really interesting, and I think I'm onto something, so I'm going to share it with you. As many of you know, we're in a huge housing shortage. Like in California, they need hundreds of thousands of units just to meet demand. So over the last few years, they've made it easier and easier to build what's called an accessory dwelling unit, or an ADU. Essentially, this is like a mini rental property that you could build on an existing lot, or you could take something like a garage, expand it out, and all of a sudden, you have another unit that you could legally rent out. Well, over the last year, California has passed a variety of bills that would expedite the permitting process, allow you to build multiple units, allow for decreased setbacks. There's a lot of perks here, so I started to run the numbers, and I came across Ryan, who runs the channel How to ADU. Turns out he was also a viewer of the channel, which is really cool, so we connected. I told him my plan because he's very experienced with this, and he referred me to a company that basically handles the entire process for you, step by step. They get you multiple bids, they help negotiate the price down, and this is really important for me because I live out of state and I don't want to have to manage another project. I guess their business operates because they work with a few select builders who they give a lot of business to, and then they have those builders compete for clients that this company brings them into. And because of that, I was able to get a better deal with them than I would have been able on my own because they operate with such volume that they could bring down the discounts on a per job basis and just do more of them. In terms of the numbers, the math is just too good to pass up. Like, I would be paying all in about $200,000 to $215,000 to build a 700 square foot 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom that I could conservatively rent for anywhere between $2,350 a month to $2,500 a month. This means that even after all of my expenses, including a property manager, I could make more than a 10% return on my money every single year. Even better, but I could borrow the entire amount of money I need at 5.26% by using what's called a pledged asset line. That interest is then deductible against California-sourced income, and then all of a sudden, I'm earning free money with $0 out of pocket. Oh, and by the way, if you want this to get even crazier, I could make more money putting nothing out of pocket, $0 down, than I would by paying for the entire thing outright in full. How? Well, I'm probably going to lose a lot of people here when I get into nitty-gritty numbers, so if you want to skip through this, just go to this timestamp right here, but if you want me to break it down, it's seriously like magic. Let's assume I make $24,000 as net rental income on a $200,000 investment. With real estate, you're then able to depreciate the cost of the structure over 27 and a half years. So at a $200,000 build cost, that's $7,372 a year that I could write off against any profits. This means I only have to pay tax on $16,727 worth of income, which at California's 45% tax rate means I'm paying $7,527. Subtract that from $24,000 worth of net rental income, and that's a post-tax investment return of $16,473 in the first year. But wait, in order to pay for that, I'm able to borrow $200,000 at an interest rate of 5.26%, which works out to be $10,520 a year worth of overhead cost. However, since that's a 45% write-off against California-sourced profits, my actual interest paid after taxes is only $5,786. On top of that, since I'm able to keep my money invested in a money market fund earning 4.3%, that's an extra $8,600 a year that I get to keep, which after a 37% federal tax comes out to $5,418 worth of profit. So when you add it all up, we have $16,473 worth of income from the property, I pay $5,786 worth of net interest, I make $5,418 from the money market fund, and that comes out to a total profit of $16,105 in the first year for nothing out of pocket. If you compare that to what I would have made had I just paid off the property in full, I'd have just $11,055, because even though I'd make more from the rental initially, I'd be missing out on the opportunity cost of earning $5,418 from the money market fund, and voila, it makes more money, in this case, not to put anything down than it does to pay it off in full. Mind-blowing. This is my first real estate investment that I've made since 2020 because prices and interest rates have just gotten to a point where nothing makes sense, and it's actually better just to rent a property instead of buying it in the short term, so I've held off. But this one just makes way too much sense not to do, so my plan is to start with this one, see how it goes, and if I have a good experience, I'm going to replicate this across other rental properties and just keep going. Oh, and by the way, for anyone curious, the company I'm using to do all this is called Realm. They specialize in California-based ADUs, where they basically work with a select group of contractors, they have them compete against each other for price, and because they give them so much business, those contractors are really incentivized to stay on budget and give them a good price because they operate on volume. So far, they've been incredible to work with. I've had zero complaints, and I even called them, by the way, just to make sure they're cool with me mentioning them in a video. They said yes. They also gave me a referral link that gets you $1,000 off, so if you are interested in that in California, the link is down below. Beyond that, though, in terms of myself, you might have noticed that over the last year or so, I've really placed an emphasis on scaling back, simplifying things as much as possible, and taking on a lot less. I think in the past, I just had this fear where if I didn't say yes to every single opportunity, I'd somehow be missing out or will look back at that moment and regret not taking it up. But as I've later begun to realize, I do a lot better having a lot less on my plate and just having a few core things to focus on where I could give that my 100% attention. I've also noticed as a result of simplifying and really just focusing on a few things, those few things end up doing so much better. Like take a look at my podcast, The Iced Coffee Hour. I am proud to say that for now almost 5 years, we have posted an episode every single Sunday morning without ever missing an episode. And lately, this has become my entire focus as we travel the country trying to find the best guests possible. We've also really increased the editing this year, thanks to Mikey for putting on his own creative spin, and I couldn't be more happy with the outcome, not just from a growth perspective, but also from the ability to meet some really incredible people who otherwise I never would have been able to meet. Like here's a life hack for anyone wondering. Before the podcast, it was really difficult to get someone to take a few hours out of their day to meet up with me to break down the inner workings of their business. I mean, for anyone who I'm interested in talking to, chances are they're very busy. They're not just going to meet someone they've never met before because they sent them a DM on Instagram, and it comes off as a bit desperate. But as soon as I invite them on the podcast, the success rate goes to almost 100%. They win because they get additional exposure. I get to ask all the questions that I'm curious about. And the audience wins because they get to listen in on something like this for free. And the podcast guest usually becomes a close friend afterwards, so everybody wins. On top of that, I'm definitely a homebody, and if it were up to me, I would just be in my office 7 days a week, working on the computer, meeting nobody. So the podcast forces me to go outside of my comfort zone, travel to meet a new person every single week. And when you compound that over nearly 5 years, that's 200 high-level people that we get to chat with for 2 to 3 hours each. Needless to say, I've started taking this very seriously, even if that means spending like a day of travel and a day of travel back just for a 90-minute meeting. But it's 100% worth it. If there's any takeaway from this, learn from me. It's just really important to network with other people who are doing what you want to do or who you're curious about. Take the time to force yourself to do it, even if you don't feel like it. And if you're having a hard time meeting the people that you want to meet, find a way to provide them value first. Seriously, I think this could change the entire trajectory of your life, and you never know the impact that one connection can have. One person has the ability to completely change your life for the better forever. So it's worth it to put yourself out there and make sure you make those connections, because I promise it's going to work out even better in the end. I'm also somewhat experimenting with an idea where we could get together a group of experienced entrepreneurs, business owners, or investors together a few times a year. So if that's sort of like a group thing that you're interested in, I'll just put a form down below in the description where you could submit an application. I have no idea if this is going to be a thing or not, but I'm just testing the waters to see demand. So if that's you and you are interested and you're in the United States or don't mind like flying into the US, the link is down below. And lastly, I just want to say this. For anyone who's made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching this long. And if you enjoy these types of videos, just let me know down below in the comment section. Without exaggeration, like I read almost every single one of the comments. And when I respond, like it's me. I don't have a team. It's just me responding to the comments on my own. So if you write something, I'll do my best to respond to it. If I get too many comments, I can't promise all of them, but I'll do my best to read everything. So definitely give me some feedback and I'm all ears. Oh, and also one little Easter egg at the end of the video. We have a new member of the family now. Her name is Gigi. She was from a rescue. We adopted her the other month, and she immediately fit right in with Ramsey and Bailey. They absolutely love her. She's so full of energy. And if you're thinking about getting a pet this year, please look into adopting. There are so many animals out there at the shelter who would be amazing members to the family. That was Gigi. She was in the shelter. We picked her out like immediately. She was so cute. I guess she picked us technically because she really like made her presence known. So if that's something you're interested in, look into adopting. Save an animal. That's it. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you have not done that already. And until next time.